call the October 13th meeting of the Board of Supervisors to order, and if everybody could rise for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. I guess I'm going to be looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
I do have two things to add. You want to add them now, or I can add them later? It's the scheduling of the.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Yeah.
On the conditional use for the warehouse is one, and then scheduling the conditional use for Tiny Tinkers is the second one. That's another conditional use that came in last month, I think. Or maybe the beginning of this month, so.
Then I'll amend my
Tiny Tinkers.
I'll amend my motion to include those two items to the agenda as described by the solicitor.
Second
I'll
on that.
second it.
Okay, all in agreement?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Approval of the meeting minutes for September 8th, 2022's regular meeting.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in agreement?
Aye.
Approval of the treasurer's report and bill list for August of 2022. I'll do them one at a time.
Oh, at a time, okay. So moved.
I'll second that.
All in agreement?
Aye.
Aye. Approval of the treasurer's report and bill list for September 2022.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in agreement?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We'll move on to public comment. And we're going to start row one and work our way back. Anybody who wishes to speak, I need you to stand up, speak loud enough so everybody can hear. Can everybody hear me in the back? Okay. I need you to speak up loud enough so everybody can hear you if there's anybody that will be speaking tonight. And I'll need you to mention your name and your address. Okay? Anybody in row one? No? Row two? Yes, sir.
My name's Cliff Paniton. I live at 2 Genesis Drive, Blandon, Pennsylvania. The reason why I'm here before the board today is now that 222 has been completed, the noise has really increased between the roundabouts and down towards 73. So what I'm asking the board to do is enact an update to their noise ordinance to explore engine brake retarder, an engine brake retarder ordinance. And an engine brake retarder is also known as a J brake or jig brake. And according to Pennsylvania Vehicle Code 75, Section 103, if you get PennDOT involved, they'll do an on-site survey of the area and let you know whether you can enact that ordinance. Now, our decibel level in the township is 65, if I recall, on the high side, and I went out and did a couple studies myself. And with those trucks going through with the J brakes, all hours of the night, we're up to sometimes 100 on the decibel level. I think that's, I know a lot of neighbors are complaining about it. So I think if we put an ordinance in there with a fine, maybe $1,000 fine or something, which is what you already have for your noise ordinance, that might help slow it down. Now, per PennDOT, we probably wouldn't be able to do anything except for between Schaefer Road and 73, or maybe Drives Road, that whole stretch. The decline hill going south, we probably would not be able to do that. So, you know, if we could get some signs up, and even if PennDOT doesn't approve it for some reason, if we put some signs up that just says, you know, please do not use your J brakes or your engine brakes in this area, it would really help the residents. Another thing is, for people who don't know what these engine brakes are, they just slow down the vehicle. The trucks still have brakes. We're not like taking their brakes away. And they're not very safe on snowy weather, rain, and that's why sometimes you see a lot of jackknife trucks, because they use their J brakes instead of their normal brakes. So I'd like you guys to consider it. I have 3 samples other ordinances from other areas. I mean, there's a lot of communities, I'll give you those samples. One's from Upper Saucony Valley, Township of Soulbury, and the Pittston Township in Luzerne County. I mean, there's many more examples I could give you, but those are some examples where I think we should start, if you're interested.
I have a question. Where are you measuring the 100 decibels?
At the roundabout.
At the roundabout itself? Because that's very loud.
Yeah, it is. In the middle of the night, and part of your ordinance says, if you can hear anything within a mile, you can definitely, mile radius, and you can definitely hear those brakes. The road to nowhere area, 222, off ramp. I mean, you can hear them from a distance. So they're definitely way above what our level should be. So I think we should put something in there, like other communities, to try to keep it quiet.
Very interesting that the warehouse project, they did a noise study, and their baseline noise, which is measuring just the existing conditions, are actually above the noise ordinance. So I believe this gentleman's findings.
I don't know about my mind, but I believe it too. I go through roundabouts every day, so, and I know they're using Jakes. And having been a previous truck driver, I know that you don't really always need the Jake brakes, so you can still do without them. I know Upper McCungie, well, Lower McCungie has them too, but Upper McCungie has them for Shantz Road, for example.
Well, a lot of times they modify them too, so they make them even louder than they really need to be.
There's 3 stages usually on it.
You can hear them miles.
Yeah.
Do you have any data? Like, did you, when you were taking those measurements, did you record it in some kind of a format?
I didn't record it in a format. I mean, I have a chart, and it gives you the high and the average and things like that. I mean, I didn't print it off, but.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I think it'd be worthwhile for
Maybe
the
I may
township
be
to
able to
pursue
do that. I
this.
mean, I don't know if my equipment can do that or not, but. And I would definitely want somebody to use something maybe even more sophisticated than what I'm using, but I'm just giving you an example. We're above 65, so even if I'm off by 10 decibels, it's just still too loud.
I think PennDOT would have to do that also.
Eric Bauman, 208 Wales Way. It's funny you should mention that. I'm on Wales Way. I measured it on Google Maps. It's 0.8 of a mile from the roundabout, and I hear it loud and clear. And I never noticed it before, so I don't know if the use is up. And I've said to my wife and neighbors, can you imagine what it's like here? Can you imagine what it's like for the people who live right there? It is. I'm shocked how. I don't know if it's just the way the land is that the sound travels, but it doesn't annoy me, but it's on the verge, so I imagine.
So people didn't need to use, they were waiting on traffic lights the whole time. Now they just buzz right through.
Right.
Now traffic's flowing and it's,
So, I mean, I think we should do something here.
The cost to do it, well, it's really, typically you need an engineering and traffic study to do an ordinance like this, but if PennDOT does it for you, that takes care of that. So I think that's why I grabbed these back, is that on 2 of them, PennDOT did the study, on the 3rd one, the township engineer did the study. So you need that first, and then if they authorize you to do the ordinance, then it's really adopting the ordinance and the cost of signs. The cost is not much to do this, so.
I mean, I contacted PennDOT, so I'm telling you, like, they're not gonna wanna do it on that hill part. So that's why if we ask them, just say we wanna do it from Schaefer Road, where it's fairly level, because if you go like over like a 4% or so grade, then they won't pass it. They won't let you pass it. But I still think we should put some kind of a sign like these, even if they.
you should probably start entering the township on 222. That whole corridor pretty much to 73, pretty much.
Well, and they might even make it as far down as Trees Road. So I think we need to send a letter to PennDOT and request their, we're working with them on a couple other issues
We're
right now.
completely closed down on that anyway?
No.
So contact that engineer again.
When you say close that, you mean that they've responded to all the items that
And
they
we
said
talked
they
about the
would?
yields and all that stuff.
Yeah, no, they have not closed out.
Because that would be another thing to put in that.
Yeah,
Well, and here's the other thing, they're looking at 2 more roundabouts up further here.
yeah.
So there's gonna be a construction project going on up there, and we're gonna deal with the same issues all the way down through. So they're not gonna rule anything on those new ones until they get them in, because that's when we'll realize the issues. Now, the other thing about those is the amount of residences close by are pretty slim. So they may look at that entirely different, and we won't have any complaints. But what we've got right now is definitely a resounding noise that's causing a problem. So, yeah, I think we need to send a letter to PennDOT, ask them to go ahead and do a,
Eric, do you think that that should be a motion and a
I was
vote?
gonna say, I would suggest a motion.
It's fine if you want to start the process, that's fine.
Yeah.
Because I can have then Dave, you sign it, and
Okay.
then I'll send it on behalf of the Board of Supervisors to them. They've been pretty cooperative. I don't know what their response is gonna be like to this.
Well, we had talked to
But
them
if Mr.
before.
Pennington is right, then they'd be open to it.
before this project began, we talked to them, I believe. And I think the response then was, yeah, we were talking about sound barriers and everything, and they weren't open to that at all. And they said the closest house was so far away, so, you know, now we're in the midst of utilizing the noise as a problem, and yeah, so do I have a motion that we can go ahead and,
Well, I think you need to
Start.
amend the agenda first, and then,
oh, yeah.
sorry, fun process.
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to cover discussion regarding with
Noise ordinance.
noise ordinance, proposed noise ordinance for Route 222 between the roundabouts.
Pertaining to Jake brakes and
Right.
engine retardants.
I'll second that motion.
All in agreement?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's do it. Give those to Hunter, and Hunter, if you can scan those to me, I'll keep with the agenda, but
Yeah.
get them to me that way,
Yeah.
make the
Okay.
process that much easier.
I owe you email responses back as well. So I have not forgotten about those, and I'll get in touch with you if I need any of the hard copies of these. Do you have digital ones of these?
Of those, I
Yes.
I do.
I'll email you
I'll send
this
them.
evening. I'm gonna try and email you to ask for those back, because then it'll make it easier for the
Yeah,
engineer to
I can
work
do
through
that.
them, and PennDOT as well.
Okay, now can I have a motion to send a letter to PennDOT?
I'll move that we send a letter to PennDOT requesting a noise study and pursue noise ordinance regarding Route 222 between the roundabouts. Or actually, from the Schaefer Road roundabout down to 73.
We can get all the way to Dries, that might be.
Because it's all opened up now, so they're hammered.
Probably you can get it better.
Would it be better to not specify, because
Yeah.
then we can see how much we can go for. Tom and I can see how much we can go for rather than specifying.
Well, I think the concern is that it's quite a long stretch of, you know, you've already got
Yeah.
2 roundabouts, you've got 4 lanes now
Okay.
at 73, so, I mean, those Jake brakes are loud.
Well, I agree, we
If,
hear
you know,
them here on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, if we don't specify the stretch of road, then we can do it township-wide and apply it where it's applicable.
We
I'm
can
thinking
do
you might run into a
222.
problem with that. You're gonna have to limit it to a certain area right now.
222 south.
I mean, you may be able to do
273,
73.
that'll cover
I mean,
Township.
Park Road, you might be able to do sections of Park Road or something. Two, I'm just saying if that's an issue.
Well, that's
Yeah,
a
well,
different study then, no?
Right-
Yeah, it's a, yeah,
right
we
here
wanna
it is.
focus on, we wanna
Yeah,
focus on
as long as-
222.
As long as it's
Okay.
somewhat level.
Okay, yeah. I
Even
mean,
if we do it from roundabout to roundabout, and we can get some signs up, at least that's something.
Well, I like to take it to 73, because you have the approach to the roundabout from the south.
I'm just talking, I mean, you're never gonna be able to do 73 if there's any slope. You have to, it has to be a level
North of
section.
73. So
Pardon me?
north of 73 to both roundabouts,
Yeah,
to
you-
Schaefer Road. That's the section
As
that
long as
I'm
it's
thinking
somewhat level,
would make
yeah.
sense for right now.
We're not gonna have so much brake usage from 73 down for the simple reason that they're gonna be getting on 222, or they're gonna be going straight ahead into Milburg, so.
So you're talking about south of 73?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
so
talking north
if we
of
go
73
73
to Schaefer Road.
to Schaefer Road,
222.
or north of Schaefer Road where the roundabout construction has taken place. How's that work? Because that's gonna specify the area.
Want to go to Pleasant Hill?
Well, we'll be doing that the next round.
just so I understand, we're doing roundabout to roundabout.
No, we're looking at 73
73.
north
Okay.
to
73
at least
going north.
Schaefer Road, if not,
Probably should go
To the end of
End of
the
the
construction
road.
area.
Yeah.
73 north to Schaefer Road.
well, north of Schaefer.
North of 222 from 73 to north of the Schaefer Road
I'm gonna
roundabout.
write this down for me because I'm not.
Sure, all right.
Should I draw your map?
70.
It wouldn't be a bad idea. Maybe you can put a big
You got
circle
one
up there.
there.
Yeah, I can mark it up there.
Yeah.
Does that cover 222 on that
I
now?
don't know what laser pointer.
That one doesn't, but that one does.
Okay.
Exhibit A,
All right, so Schaefer Road, you want to go to Evansville?
probably.
Let's
would be
do
best.
Evansville, because
Yeah.
that's direct, that's the first road north.
Cross it all out, Jake.
Evansville.
Gives you the right indication.
Yeah.
That's what they're.
Evansville
He's writing it down, so I'll hand it to you.
Okay.
But it gets you
We just-
north of
we
the
just wanna get
roundabout
this
at
done.
Schaefer
Yeah.
Road, so
They'll
that's
tell
what
us
we're
if there's
looking for. So
any
they go to sidewalks south of that, that's going to be.
So I have a motion to send a letter to PennDOT with regard to the sound study and
Noise study.
noise ordinance issues regarding engine retardants.
And I'll second it.
All in
Didn't
agreement?
make it.
Yeah, that's my motion.
Okay.
Aye.
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 Okay. Thank you. Anybody else in row 2? Anybody in row 3? Okay, moving on to row 4. Anybody in row 4? And how about row 5 in the back? Okay, anybody else? No? Okay,
Anybody online?
yes, let's look at.
If they do want to speak, they can type in the chat because they can unmute themselves.
Okay. All right. Okay, so Northern Berks, you're up, chief.
Okay. No stamps. All right, so the activity report for September of 2022 calls for service. I'll just go to the Maidencreek numbers for now. We already reviewed all the numbers at the meeting on Monday. But specifically for Maidencreek, the calls for service, there were 335 calls for service out of a total of 656. There were 92 citations written out of a total of 186. There were 89 traffic warnings given out of a total of 206. Vehicle contacts, there were 166 out of a total of 358. And there was one arrest out of a total of 9, so 3 more for arrest. Crashes in Maidencreek Township, we had 15. 4 were reportable, 11 were non-reportable. Hours of service for Maidencreek Township was 841.25, which is a total of 28.04 day hours. The conversion is. Mileage for the vehicles, there were 4,410 miles put on police vehicles in Maidencreek Township. Fuel consumption, we used 1,103.715 gallons of fuel. And total cost for vehicle services for the month was $4,257.57. The biggest expense being replacing water pumps in both of the 2 of the Explorers that we have. It's an issue with the Ford Explorers. If you don't replace the water pump before it goes, then you're gonna have to replace the engine, which is a lot more expensive. So it's preventive maintenance for Ford Explorers. Also at the meeting, the commission meeting on Monday, the police commission budget was approved. Everyone did a very good job and came together and approved that. And also the body camera and in-car video policy was moved forward. Motorola's coming the week of the 24th to finish the installations that we finished by then, to get everything up and running. So we should have body cameras and in-car video by November 1st at the very latest. So,
I have a question, chief, while you're
Yes.
here. The 15 crashes, any of them in the roundabout?
there were, we have been looking at crashes from roundabout to roundabout. I don't have the data in front of me because that's changed since the last time I looked at it. There were actually less crashes in the roundabouts since the construction was finished in that area than there was before the construction, if that makes sense. And so I think some of the construction may have caused it, the traffic being backed up, may have caused crashes in that area. And the other thing is the crashes don't necessarily show up in the roundabout, they show up in that area because most people pull over after the roundabout. But there actually seem to be less crashes now that the roundabouts are in than there were before the roundabouts, but I think the reason for that is because it was all backed up due to construction at that time. So it'll be interesting moving forward to see what the numbers are like prepared to, before the construction even started.
And the severity?
And the crashes for the roundabout are primarily non-reportable accidents,
Okay.
they're just fender benders. And also, I keep hearing about all the near misses. Well, if you actually study the roundabouts, near misses are kind of what the roundabouts are about. You're not gonna go through the circle and be the only car in the circle. You're gonna get maybe a little closer than you want to another vehicle, but that doesn't mean there's gonna be a crash. I think people are unfamiliar, they think when they go through that, there should be no other cars around them. Everyone should just, and that's obviously not the way the roundabouts are designed. But people do continue to drive fast and do continue to not yield, especially on 222, trying to pull out either from Genesis or from Schaefer to go through the roundabout. I see that routinely, and we do have officers try to sit in those areas. But we have a lot of other problem areas in the township too. We have an issue with the school buses in the morning and in the afternoon on 222 by the daycare. Trying to think of the plaza that's right there with the jewelry store, and people just, they go through there all the time. We pull 2 cars over at a time and people say, oh, we didn't see the bus. I don't know what they're looking at, but bus is a bright yellow, orange vehicle with a flashing white light and all kinds of flashing lights, and they don't see the bus, so I can imagine they'd never see a kid if they were crossing the street either. So we're routinely hitting that. There's other problems elsewhere in the police area, including at 61 in Leesport, where people just pass the buses all the time. So there's, hopefully we're trying to get officers for participation in the program next week, involved with PennDOT, where we have either an officer in the bus or an officer following the bus in an unmarked vehicle. But we gotta pick and choose our areas for that. So, but that's something that we're hoping to do next Wednesday. But yeah, the accidents, the crashes in the roundabout are mostly, I'd say 95% lower speed, non-injury crashes. The fatal crash that we had 3 weeks ago, that was further up the hill, north on 222 near the garage strength gym. That was up that way, and that had nothing to do with the roundabout.
I think some of the problems that we run into with the roundabouts throughout Pennsylvania is the fact that they're all so different.
Yes.
It's not like there's anything uniform with them. And that becomes a monster that I think PennDOT needs to look at while they're designing. So, I mean, if you're gonna make it different, how do you expect somebody to grasp it?
Right.
Well, there's also a sign that says that when there's a truck going through it, that they have that lane and you're not supposed to be next to them in the
No.
lane. I mean, like, there's that notice, so,
Right.
that's posted, I mean,
Right.
so, I
And
think
the
that's gonna
trucks-
be confusing for people.
The trucks are supposed to be in the inside lane
Right.
riding the cement.
But they don't even do that.
They
They don't
They
know
don't do
that.
that.
Well, they don't know that
Right.
the trucker that was involved in the fatal crash, I spent some time speaking to him because I just want to make sure he was okay, what he just witnessed and what he went through. Nice young kid, but I told him about it. I said, you know, you're supposed to ride up along the apron. He didn't know that. They never
Nope.
taught him that. And the other thing is, like you said, conformity. If their drivers are from New Jersey, in New Jersey, they're not roundabouts, they're circles.
Right.
And then vehicles coming into the circle on the right of way. So if a car's coming in from New Jersey, that doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna know it's a roundabout, not a circle, and they're not gonna know the law, so.
And that's usually, with my experience, myself driving, that's either a New York or New Jersey plate that almost
Right.
take you out.
Right.
And I just had that conversation this morning with supervisors from PennDOT, so let's see where it goes from there.
I think they need to do a better job of education, honestly.
That was the exact conversation we had. Yes, sir.
Would anybody entertain as a deterrent, putting a sign that near the roundabouts that says accidents to date, just as people go through, they'll say, oh, holy heck, we've had, so many accidents, maybe I better be a little bit more careful.
Any signage we put up has to be approved by PennDOT. So we've got to deal with that aspect of it as well, so.
It should be
Maybe,
noted.
there's some other property that maybe they'd let us put a sign up that's not on PennDOT's property, maybe, I don't know.
Oh, it still would have to be approved by PennDOT. Yeah, any advertising signs or anything. We tried to get a school bus sign put up for a stop that we almost had a school bus rear-ended by a tanker, a flammable load, and they wouldn't approve it.
Wow.
So, I mean, I'm sure,
Sorry.
right.
I was just gonna say, we can email them and see, are there any creative signs that have helped anywhere else? Because they have been very cooperative to this point, so they
And
may
quite
have some
honestly,
suggestions.
We have the center of the roundabouts.
Yeah.
Right.
So that may not be a bad place to consider them.
Well, and if it's our property, they just need to be compliant, and I can't remember what the publication number is, but they need to be compliant with PennDOT approved signs,
Sign
because
ordinance.
they will take them down if they're not on
Right.
222.
And a sign ordinance, I mean, the sign with numbers on it is not one that I've ever seen in any other sign books.
No, but it could say like high incident area,
Yeah.
or high crashing, you know,
Yeah.
area, something like that.
So we can look at
I mean,
that.
I'll even change the numbers for you.
And then his phone number.
We need that right?
Okay. Well, thank you, Chief. Anything for the chief? Okay.
I guess I do want to add that the police commission is going very smoothly. We were about 400,000 under budget as of September 30th for the year, so I think that, commend the chief for maintaining the budget, keeping it around, too much overtime and things like that. And things are going much better with any police chief in place. It's nice to see it.
And your officers too, thank them as well.
Yeah, the whole department.
Yeah, I can't take credit for the majority of it's the officers, Alicia.
And it's a team effort from the whole
Exactly,
agency.
exactly.
Can I also say that it's been really a pleasure working with Jim the entire, I guess I should call him the chief in the meeting, but it's been a pleasure working with him and Bob, and when we had some of the issues that we talked about in the past with our parks, the officers that responded were very helpful. And I have nothing but good things to say, and I do say good things to other people about Northern Works too, so thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess we're going to jump over some things here as we have people here from Titan Sea Plan. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, did you want to come on up and
Sure.
take front stage?
Good evening. Scott Miller with Scott Stevens and McCoy. We're here to get a reaffirmation of the Titan Sea final land development plan for phase one. Based on Tom Unger's review letter, we had done some minor field revisions, specifically regarding the shape and configuration of the first building to be built. And then there were some other things that related to that with spot elevations, some minor stormwater tweaks with lines. But the big thing probably was that we made an agreement with the church for the water line, and unfortunately they rejected it. So we ended up having to relocate that proposed water line. So those were really the big changes from what was originally approved on the plan. I think, again, Systems Design has reviewed the plan, and I can go over those if you'd like, and basically said that we've met all of the conditions for engineering, and at this point it looks like it's down to agreements and escrows that are associated and signatures for the plan.
Yes, the review letter is basically same as the previous conditional use approval that you granted. The conditions will be the same, they're all administrative at this point. So a reconfirmation or a new approval of the plan conditioned upon satisfaction of the October 10th, 2022 SDE letter will be appropriate.
Did that need to be on our agenda?
It is.
It is. It's under engineering.
Yeah, I asked Dave to skip them ahead because they were present, so that they can leave after we're done.
No.
There should be a second agenda,
Ah, where was that?
right behind the first agenda.
Well, this is the one that came
No,
in the
the-
packet.
Oh, did you give everybody one of the second agendas?
Yeah, sure.
I thought, so,
I'll go get it.
actually, you have mine, I'll go grab it.
Yeah, well, I had mine from,
Yeah, yours is from Friday.
right. That's what I'm saying, looking at it, and I don't see it. Well, yeah, now you see it. Thanks.
I thought you had it.
Nope. That's why I
So,
asked.
as Tom had indicated, we're looking for either a reaffirmation or reapproval of this plan conditioned upon the comments in the October 10th review letter.
Okay, Any discussion?
Now, I read the letter from the engineer, so it looks pretty straightforward. Or you get one even.
Pick my board book up late.
I was at a public meeting, when I was getting that, where all the agendas they handed out to the public were blank. So we had, someone from the audience started arguing, like, you need to have that to the agenda. We're like, what do you mean, it's right here? They all had blank ones. It took us a while to figure out this, the ones that were copied for everybody else, was not the ones that we had over here.
That's not something you can see right through.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you want to pizza?
Okay, so what is the preference? Here?
Just approve it.
Just approve?
Conditional.
Straight condition.
Okay, so do I have a motion to approve the Type C contingent on the completion of the SDU review items drafted 10/10 and 22 for Type C?
I'll make that motion.
All right, I'll second it.
All in agreement?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, and thank you for moving us up on the agenda.
You did that.
All right. Well, everybody have a good night.
You did sign
Thank
the
you.
drawings here?
No, we'll get those to you.
And have you guys done numbers yet?
We have numbers, yes. I'll send numbers over to you.
Mark. I'll give you my card. That's fine.
It's smoother to get the process rolling, so thank you.
No.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
This has the
Oh, thank you.
drawings and revision. You emailed me and asked me for that.
They did, thank you so much.
Am I up? Okay, so subdivision review status checklist is item 1 on your engineer's report. Under action items, you do have listed approvals of time extensions for the conditional use hearing, and I'll let the solicitor maybe take it on that.
So for the conditional use, we have a letter requesting an extension for that till November 30th. And then for the land development review, we have a extension through January 31st of 2023. So we will deal with the scheduling of the hearing under my report, but this is just to accept and agree to those time extensions as given to us in writing by the applicant.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in agreement?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, in the engineer's report, you'll see revised or new review letters for the warehouse, including review letters from Benchmark, who's a traffic consultant, and McCamley Hydrogeology, who is the hydrogeologist consultant. So we're all up to date on reviews, and there is a special planning commission meeting next Thursday for the planning commission to review the plans.
Just so everybody knows, that is not in this room. That's at Andrew Ware Elementary School. So next Thursday at 7 o'clock.
The only other item for action is the roadwork payment application. That's payment application number 1, and that is marked as final. So this is a once and complete application for payment in the amount of $223,309.34, and that is to Asphalt Maintenance Solutions.
So moved.
Just a question on that. Have you been out to the area recently, Tom?
I was out just last week with Keith, and I was out prior on the roads also after work was complete, yes.
Okay, and I guess there were some concerns brought up about Some sinking or something transpiring?
Potholes reopening up.
Yeah.
I think that was just some work that Keith was gonna follow up on, that was some scratch coat that wasn't brought up to that elevation. So I think it's just, it's nothing that AMS did, has nothing to do with the oil and chip.
Okay.
So the oil and chip job, I think, looked good. They did exactly what we expected. So I think just that you're seeing just is some things in the scratch leveling course that has to be taken care of.
Okay.
And just, and Keith can correct me if I'm wrong. You can correct me if I do this wrong.
Sure.
But the pre-existing roads had a steeper grade than what you would construct. So in their scratch leveling, they had to bring so much up. And because it was so much material that they had to put down, it looks uneven, and there are spots that appear weird or are bowing or different things along those lines. And when Keith and I had talked about this, a lot of that will settle over time, and also with the plow getting it, and then if anything opens up, those are things that we'll have to address as they happen. Is that a fair rendering?
Pretty good.
Yep.
Is there anything the plow's gonna get that might create its own dilemma?
No, the plow's just gonna kind of take off some of the high spots.
Okay.
Because a lot of what you're seeing out there is almost an optical illusion. It looks actually worse than it is. And I think I sent you pictures.
Yeah.
And you can see the low level going across there, there's almost no distance.
Yeah.
There's nothing below there.
The residents back there, apparently, I think there was a little bit of a misunderstanding. I think they thought they were getting brand spanking new
Right.
paving road.
Yeah.
And that could be it as well.
And I'm partially at fault. I thought that too at first, but then when I talked to Keith and they said, no, this is exactly what was supposed to happen.
Okay.
Then when I saw the pictures, I'm like, then, yeah, it looks fine to me, so. But I know there was, residents were complaining that it's awful bumpy back there, and
If you could just keep an eye on that, Keith, see, just make sure, especially with the rain that we've been getting. Today might have been
but I've also had good positive things about our road crew and the widening that they did, and, that's awesome, and it gives enough room now that you don't have to worry about a tractor coming in your lane while you're driving down the road, and they got enough room to get over, so
Okay.
kudos to them too for doing a good job.
Yes. We said thank you. And let's look at the approval for.
I made a motion.
I'll second that motion.
All in agreement?
Aye.
Dave, do you mind if I just add quick? I just wanted to say thank you to the road crew for all the work that they did, because they really did yeoman's work this summer, and especially with the widening and the scratch cuts. There was a lot of effort in there, and they really stuck out some extremely hot days. So much that I could definitely smell it. But they did an excellent job, and I just wanted to thank them publicly and let the board know that there's nothing but a good project outcome for them.
And that's what you understand. You took on a big project. You took on a lot of projects this year. So,
Yeah.
thank you for you and your crew for doing
Appreciate it, thank you all, thanks all.
That's all the action items I have for the board. If you have any questions, happy to answer them.
We may have to look at some things later as we go through the agenda. And we're gonna need an executive session tonight as well, so. Yeah. Okay, move on to our solicitor.
What the first thing is?
Yeah, really simply put, before I got here, the board had voted to have a harassment policy developed. So Siena Law has developed a sexual harassment policy that's extremely extensive. We're going through some revisions to make sure that it applies to general workplace harassment beyond that of a sexual nature. So we'll have a final copy for you guys, I think, by probably the 24th, if not the November meeting. I think just because the 24th is focused on the budget, we could address things that come up as necessary, but it's probably better to just address it on the 10th.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too, but we'll have enough to address at the budget meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
And the two things that I added to the agenda, the first one, the easier one of the two, is did receive, beginning of October, a conditional use application for, let me get this language right here, for childcare use at 3 Ingot Drive. And since it's a conditional use, we're under a time constraint that we have to have a hearing within 60 days. All right, so this is the first meeting you have. So 60 days does not get us to our December meeting, so we would have to get this on our agenda in November. This one seems fairly straightforward, so I believe we can handle this one on your normal meeting night on the 10th.
Okay.
So just need a motion to allow us to,
Post.
right, to post and do all the normal stuff to get this thing advertised and lined up for the meeting, and we'll have it on November 10th at 7 o'clock.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So,
I'll second it.
All in agreement?
Aye.
And the planning commission already reviewed this and recommended approval of that one. Under Tom's report, you saw that the warehouse only gave us an extension for the conditional use through the end of November. So again, we have to have that one in November. We did circulate dates with the applicant today, and I think we had the 14th available. Did you check with the board? I don't know if you did.
No.
No, that was
So,
one that I wanted to talk about tonight.
The 14th, what day of the week is that? I think it's a Monday.
Yeah, it is a Monday.
Monday the 14th.
That's November, correct?
Yes.
is there another date, or is that the only one that was?
That's it. Well, we could schedule the 10th as well, because we just have to get the hearing started. We don't have to finish it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if push comes to shove and the 14th doesn't work, we'll schedule it for the 10th. Tell them, we'll give them an hour that night,
Yeah.
and then we'll work between now and the 10th to get the next date scheduled with everybody's calendar.
Because the 14th is the Northern Birch Police Commission.
Got it.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that, so. All right.
The other date was the,
That's the 10th, as you normally do.
Oh, the 10th.
So we'll just have to tell them it's the 10th.
And then reschedule.
And reschedule.
And then give them like an hour that night. That way they don't bring all their whole team. Maybe they bring
Right.
one witness and get it done. But I guess we have to check for the venue of that one then,
Yeah.
so.
And I think that they said that they were open to other dates too. It's just a matter of trying to find that.
That work for everybody.
So, I mean, we can try and set the date with the board via email, but we had dates circulating, I think, this morning, so that's why I didn't
Well,
forward it to you
here's what I
guys.
can do. One thing is we can schedule for the 10th.
Okay.
And then maybe work between now and then. We don't actually do anything but open the hearing on it, open it,
Yeah.
introduce some exhibits, and then say it's gonna be scheduled for this night. Actually, then we can work it out with the applicant. Doesn't even need to show up on the 10th, but allow us to open it and then
Yeah.
announce that night when it will be in November.
we may have a lot of people come here too.
Yeah.
And then that kind
Agreed.
of complicates
Well,
our regular meeting.
And I think my fear would be is that you guys will have a full agenda for November, so
Right.
opening that
That's why we're
hearing-
trying to get a special date for it. so.
Yeah.
So we could potentially still get a special date without
Right.
scheduling before May 10th.
Although I need to schedule something tonight is the problem.
You have to have something.
Yeah.
Could the board authorize, if, to set dates
Yep. I think, yeah.
via email?
I think it's the only choice we're gonna have.
As long as it's
So-
advertised appropriately,
Well,
and then we have a good
I will
venue
not
for
allow
it.
it to be, right,
Yeah.
I will make sure it's far enough out
Right.
that I have time to advertise it.
I mean,
So-
we're gonna have one hearing already, so bringing this one into
Right.
to the 10th is gonna be real confusing.
It's gonna really
I
complicate it.
agree.
Yeah.
So,
So maybe authorize Hunter and me to coordinate
with
with
a-
your schedule, Tom's
Right.
schedule, and the applicant's schedule to get a special meeting then.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep.
I don't know that you're gonna need, do you need a motion for that?
Yeah.
You do, okay. I have a motion to allow the manager and our solicitor to coordinate dates for the conditional use hearing for the warehouse.
All right, so,
I'll second it.
All in agreement?
aye.
So, can I just ask a quick follow-up question too? I had a question come, and I think Mr. Pennington actually asked it. Am I pronouncing your last name correct? Okay. Are there ways that the board would like to advertise for this meeting other than through Facebook, on the website, and in the newspaper as is required? I don't know if there's really any other ways that we can communicate it outwards. I don't think that this is worthy, frankly, of spending postage to do any type of notice or something along those
Well,
lines.
We've
But I
got
know
to
that
meet
there is
certain
a-
requirements anyway, because we're gonna have to have all the adjoining property owners notified.
Whatever our ordinance requires, we will do that.
Right.
I think you're saying anything beyond that, to be honest. And I'll tell you,
Yeah.
the problem with sending letters beyond what's in the ordinance is you always have that next person who says, why didn't I get a letter? And it's because you're 501 feet out instead of 500 feet out. Like, well, you still should have sent it. Like, well, you have to draw a line somewhere. So,
Yeah.
And we can use public media.
our website, Facebook, I think is
Yeah.
great.
There's other social media too.
I could honestly send something to the Reading Eagle if you wanted that as well. I don't have to if you don't want to.
No, but I think that would be good if they covered something like this. They should be covering things like this. And typically they do anyhow. They've covered other warehouse proposals.
Yeah, especially right
hearings.
now, with so many of them going on.
Yeah, I mean, they did a big one in Cumber, so.
I'll send something to Keith, who's the
Yeah.
guy who lives here a few
Smoker?
times. Yeah.
So what I would ask is if everybody tomorrow or as quickly as possible, get an email to Hunter, at least to Hunter, but Hunter and me, of your available dates in
Well,
November.
how about if you send us the
dates.
the dates that you've already been working with?
Yeah.
And then,
We only had a couple, and there
I
may
mean,
be more.
Jenny,
We were trying to already anticipate when you were available. We only had like 4 of them.
Yeah,
maybe four.
There may be more.
There's a lot of schedules on their end to coordinate, which is why I think they only provided one. So what I could do is just say, these are the dates that the board is available. You have to make them work. I suspect that that might be the best way to do it.
Well, you have dates for them, and you know what our commitments are at this point.
Well,
well, you don't know all of our.
We gave them 3 dates, they picked one. So that, I think that's what, they said they had other dates in November. They just said, can you get other dates already lined up?
Okay.
That's all they said. So
Yeah.
obviously they have other dates in November that are good, we just don't know what they are. So I think, right, we kind of, as a
First Thursday
group.
of the month.
Yeah, exactly. We get all our dates to them, and say, pick one of these, and then obviously you need to get the venues availability as well,
Yeah.
so.
Well, that's a complicated thing
Yeah.
too.
yeah. Well,
What are
Fleetwood
we,
is,
what are we looking at time-wise for this hearing, do you think?
We don't know. I don't know how many witnesses they're gonna have.
Okay.
But they're gonna need, the representative of the owner, developer, engineer, traffic engineer. Right, so you've got a lot of witnesses.
That's more than one meeting.
Oh, yeah, I think so too.
And then you could have parties to the case. You could have other,
Yeah,
you know, private
absolutely.
individuals.
Whoever rights to present their own case
And then
as
they
well.
present it and they can ask questions and that's.
That's why it's, so I think we
That's more than
at
one
least
night.
have to get the first one, so I can get it
Right.
advertised. But at the same time, if they pick 2, we'll just say, all right, we already know what the next one is gonna be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would be a wise way to go about it.
So you're gonna look for after the 10th then of next month.
so,
Right.
think so.
So it's gotta be in November between the 10th and the 30th. That's what we're looking at, that block, and we've got Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving, exactly.
yeah.
It's gonna get
Yeah,
complicated. real
Thanksgiving
fast.
Day, they bring the turkey.
I've had them on Saturday when people don't cooperate, so they argue about showing up, but they show up, so.
Have they-
I don't wanna do that, but.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
yet.
Have they
Yeah.
indicated a willingness to extend past November?
Not yet.
Okay.
But I think maybe if we dipped in it, just said, look, do it.
I think they will.
I think they will, too.
If you get started, they will.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And we don't have to finish by November, we just have to start by November.
Right.
30th,
Right,
so.
but it's a complicated month. It's a big election,
Absolutely agree, yeah, all right.
Thanksgiving,
Well,
all
take
kinds of
election day,
things,
so that's-
hunting, people
so we-
go hunting and stuff.
That was the one date he gave me, I said, yeah, I don't wanna offer that date, 'cause it's the first day of hunting.
Well, yeah.
I'll show up in camo, so.
well, let's see what we can,
Wouldn't be happy with that day.
let's see what we can come up with.
Okay.
And we've gotta get done by the 30th,
So if you could, yeah, I think as a group, we kinda all start coordinating, and I can,
Yeah.
at the same time, I can ask them from their dates, and maybe I can then pick the dates. So,
Okay.
but if you guys, as a team, we all get our dates together, and the venue's the other big one.
Yeah.
So-
Fleetwood has been cooperative. We'll just
I don't
need
have
to,
any right now.
With the high school or?
But,
well,
No,
I
it's
spoke to Greg Miller, the superintendent,
yeah,
on Wednesday, so yesterday.
yeah,
We're working through some issues with Andrew Mayer, because the cafeteria does not have an AV system, and it doesn't have any type of overhead projector. I
Oh,
talked, yeah, and I did not realize this. I thought all elementary schools had that, and I was wrong. So we're gonna get chairs there. We have microphones lined up, so we'll be okay. And they're doing their whole presentation on plasterboard, so just flipping things over. So for the conditional use hearing, I need a larger venue than Andrew Mayer's cafeterias.
so.
How is it just the high school?
You got
And
the high
next
school,
week
you
will
got-
be a good test too. Next week's
Yeah.
fine, we're gonna see how many people are showing up. So
Exactly.
and I think,
Yeah.
use that as a goal too, to have all our dates available, then I can actually pull their attorney aside and maybe we can even just schedule it that night.
Well, and
And then announce it as well.
the high school, yeah.
Well, does the
I'll work as much as I can. The high school is gonna be challenging, because right now is where the school is doing all their showcases, all of their events, the orchestra concert, all the bands, and they're never gonna move those aside for us.
Oh, no, we're not expecting them,
Well,
but it depends
yeah.
what their schedule is
Yeah.
too, like everybody else.
What about the school right out here at
Willow
Willow
Creek?
Creek, right?
The
That's a new building.
superintendent,
I'm
yeah.
thinking they probably have a larger room, or they may have a larger room for our use.
Well, the auditorium opens up into the
Yeah.
cafeteria area, so.
I haven't been in the school yet, so I don't know.
Dr. Miller did suggest that one,
Okay,
so.
that's closer too.
I can ask him what the capacity is, because I think we want capacity for probably 200 people at minimum, unless you guys
Yeah.
are thinking larger than that.
Well, and I'm thinking that they should probably have that.
They will.
Oh, yeah.
Well, like I said, it opens up to the stage, so the cafeteria, you have seating there, and there's bleachers that pull down so they can see it's
Yeah.
elevated. And then they have the projector that's there, so.
So if that's gonna meet the needs of the moment, that's where we need to look.
I'll give him a call tomorrow.
Okay. It's too late to change next week's meeting, but
No.
it gives us something to work
It gives
with.
us, if we can work
Yeah.
with trying to button this down by next Thursday, at least we can announce at the planning commission.
Right.
And that gets that whole group of people that show up for that.
Yeah.
Because then knows when, where it's gonna be. So,
Yeah. Well, and just to put your mind at ease too, we'll have everything ready for Andrew Mayer. That's not gonna be an issue. I just don't think it's large enough for the actual conditional use hearing itself.
Yeah, I'm just thinking that if we've got a venue that has the chairs and everything, rather than us moving everything around.
Yes.
And using our,
I think Willow Creek's perfect.
Yeah.
The bleachers are coming out like a
Yeah.
basketball gym, so.
Yeah.
we just have to clean up afterwards, I believe.
So I'll also, if the board's comfortable with it too, I'll send an email to the superintendent asking for them to waive all fees for us. He said that, you know, we have to do that in writing, and I needed to get your clearance on doing that. And I think because of the familiarity between one member of the board specifically and the township, we can move on. He did tell me that they would probably be reluctant to waive labor hours if they're setting anything up for us. But I think that our road crew guys could probably do it, and all of our guys have clearances as well, so they can be in the schools,
Okay.
you know, either right as school is closing or right before, something along those lines.
All right.
So I'm signing Keith up for more work, sorry, but no problem.
So we really need to know the availability of the school too,
Yeah.
before we
a lot of
can
moving parts.
pick even a date among ourselves.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you wanna work on that, as soon as you get something, text it to us as well as email.
Yeah.
Which one gets to us first? How are you best contacted? Text?
If it's urgent, text. I mean, if it's something like real, email's good too, but.
Yeah,
Right.
well, if we're running against the clock, I'll just call board members if necessary.
Okay.
Yeah. And if that's easier for any of you, just let me know, because I'll do that as well.
Now, texting is nice because you get that whole, like, instant, you know, what the message is.
Right.
I love the instant gratuity of text messages, I'm not gonna lie.
Duly noted.
So don't sit on it.
I just wondered if that has anything to do with generational X.
Yeah, well, and so for me, emails is easier to say unread, because I'm getting back to that. And text message is much harder to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a generational thing, sorry.
yeah, it's born at the wrong time. Well, maybe it was the right time.
Yeah, but you wanna make
So-
it sweat and start twitching, just type one word in, or one letter in there and let the dots sit there and start twitching.
You guys think that's funny, huh?
Duly noted, right?
That's all I have, thank you.
Okay. Manager of Public Works.
A suggestion, if you could put your date, you have this whole report here, and you list the days, but you don't put the dates on them.
Okay,
You could put the actual day, because it says Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and all that stuff.
okay.
Otherwise, it's very thorough, which is very nice.
I will do that, and I appreciate that, thank you.
Mhm.
Maybe some bigger binders too while you're at it.
Yeah, what?
What?
The binary game, I can't close it.
That's
Well, there are some bigger ones somewhere.
We're missing them.
Yeah.
I gave you mine. I gave you mine. I returned.
I'm like, where's all the fighters?
I put my name on there.
There's like 10 of them.
Okay, review of Faith Drive survey responses. So we got back, all of our responses that we're gonna accept at this point. I don't say that in a mean way, it's just statistics wise, we need to cut it off at some point. They are included in here for overview. If you look on the second page, and I know it's a little bit difficult to decipher exactly what it's looking like, the only action that was close to a majority was a speed table on Faith Drive. So the question really at this point is, does the board want to move forward with any of the revisions? I think it would be a responsible thing to have some type of follow-up to the survey, whether that is moving forward with the speed table or whether it's not. There needs to, I think, be some type of book is closed on this issue, whether that's we post a letter on the website or if we post something on Facebook. I think even if you look at the speed table, it's only 47%. Now, when you're doing surveying, it's always a question of survey bias. Are only the people who care responding, or are they a true representation of what the whole street would be okay with? I think that's.
So what's the percent of the people actually responded to the survey?
That's what it's saying.
It was
34%.
We got 38 people.
38 people
what
out of
percent?
58.
58.
Yeah, 58.
And not everybody might even know what a speed table is, and they think it's a good idea.
I think I did actually explain on the survey itself what they are, and it was only in a sentence, so, you know,
That
people
doesn't
might not know.
necessarily, you know, because they
Right.
can vary in size and.
We had a 65% response rate with 38 responses.
Some can be really bouncy. I've seen some in Lancaster County which can be really jarring, and some that are just, you know, more.
Well, and I, with our Sourcewell contracts, we have a vendor who sells the speed tables, and they have them customizable. When we have tried communicating in email, it is far above my head, so I might bring Keith into it if the board wants to look at it, because he might have a better understanding of some of the things that he's talking about. But they are completely customizable, so we can do as low impact as we can possibly fit into that area.
We have to look at it as what we would need. I think a traffic study may be required for that before we would even begin that process of figuring out what we're gonna do. And then we have to sit down and really look at what size we're looking at, what the liabilities are. So, and I think there may be some constraints on the size of what we can use, so.
Yeah, I think there needs to be a lot more thought and effort put into this in engineering before we even go down this road.
Right.
I mean, I like to see our focus on dealing with noise issues before we jump into this.
Well, we're gonna be dealing with noise issues, we're gonna start that process. So that's-
No, I know, but I'm just.
See, I don't know what's with those too. That's gonna contribute to this.
Oh, you mean the speed table?
Yeah.
Not like that, you get some cars that are lower to the ground.
Lower the
Oh,
ground.
yeah, they'll spray.
You get trucks like down there, just loud rolling over, ditches they're banging around and carrying on.
Oh, yeah.
Guys with long trailers, complain because all
Then
their
the
stuff.
neighbors are gonna hear all around
Yeah.
it too, so.
Yeah, I think we need to spend some time on that one.
Yeah.
Do you want me to talk with Tom about what would be entailed in a traffic study, or should we just maybe do some preliminary work?
I think,
Do a traffic study.
Yeah.
Proposal, outline what the traffic study would entail, and I think that would be a starting point.
yeah, and we know also at that point what we were looking at for a number and that, et cetera. You had a question? sir?
Years ago, on that drive, they put a speed bump. I don't know if anybody was here at the time. And speed bumps are a lot rougher than a speed table. And everybody went crazy over it because, you know, it's just too rough on the cars.
Right.
I don't think anybody did a study. And I was wondering, is that really necessary to do a study?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes, it is.
I mean, there may have been a study done years ago just on that speed bump, if that's what had to be done, but
I'm just kind of curious, are you an engineer?
I have an engineering background, yeah.
Okay, that's what I was curious about.
I'm a consultant for engineering companies and stuff like that.
Okay, thanks. I was just curious.
Not civil technically, but.
Okay.
Do you want to be on the zoning hearing board?
Is this gonna open like a can of worms though? Because you do it on one, and like I said, Limestone and up across from Andrew Mayer down, what's the street right across from, Spirit Court, then they're gonna,
Well, there's all kind of calming devices that you can use, but they're all going to require an engineering study, and they may not even take care of the problem that you're really trying, they may cause another problem altogether. So you almost have to look at it and kind of pick your poison, I guess.
I think the genesis of this was in response to, I'll say, specific complaints.
Yes.
And
Two in particular.
it's, I was trying not to portray the number.
Yeah, that's okay.
No, but I think that's important, that's,
Yeah.
to put this in context, we need to know what we're talking about here,
So,
you know?
what I would suggest is if the board wants to say, you know, we can't respond to conclusions, and there is no majority on any of these. There's actually a majority to do no on most of them, on half of them.
Yeah, I saw that.
It may just be better then to say the study did not show, you know, a driving reaction to something. Now, I will say, there was all but 2 of the responses that did say that there is a speeding problem. Now, when I listed out the conclusions, and as you can see from the question 4, which was other suggestions, there's no plurality or majority there either. Well, there would be a plurality, but there's no majority there either. So the plurality would actually be that they didn't have suggestions.
And I'm kind of thinking myself that, one, the speeding problem that they think they have is not necessarily a speeding problem, because it's not going to meet the requirements of state law for prosecution purposes, when it says you have to give 10 miles over the speed limit before you can cite somebody. So I don't think we're meeting that. I think what's happening is the appearance of the speeding is because it's a small street, cars are parked close together, and there are no sidewalks, so people are walking in the streets. So it becomes an issue of safety. However, you know, the walkers have as much responsibility for safety as the vehicles do under state law and the vehicle code. So you have to look at both under Title 75.
So do we have any speeding data? Do we have any data that shows there's a speeding problem, or what the speeds are?
I believe
There
actually
was.
the chief, well, the police department put out their speed tracker, I don't know if
What
that's
did
the
that
right
show?
word, and it showed data that didn't show anything beyond what,
I think there were only a
Is
few
normal.
that
Yeah.
were met.
And there's no signs, and there's no way for our speed sign to work around the bend, which is where
Right.
you're getting the majority of the, because there's no direct view for the radar and
Radar
signs
signal.
to track the cars.
But look,
That's
this is a
the problem, it was
comparison.
engineered.
Comparison to that, and it's, I know it's different, but at East Western, when you have the signs up there too, the people that you're pulling over are the residents anyway.
Right.
Most of them are the neighbors.
Right.
So, and especially back there, I would think it's the same. And probably people that have voted on the survey.
I think the biggest complaint on that drive, to be quite honest with you, is people going through stop signs. In fact, I mean, we've seen a lot of people go through from, you know, they're young kids, they go through one stop sign and then they go through the next stop sign, and then they go through multiple stop signs, you know. And, you know, we yell at them and everything else, they just keep going.
Are they the stop signs with the white borders around it?
Yeah, they're optional, right?
I hate to laugh about that because I've seen it so many times.
Yeah.
And it's a problem throughout the whole Commonwealth.
There's only a few individuals that, you know, you can almost,
Oh, I
I
can
could stand there and.
I bet you my cameras on the front door pick up every one that probably has down mine and goes down that way too.
Yeah,
could send you a longer list.
And I'm sure the chief has a listing, a mile long of
Every-
speeding
every
complaints,
street.
stop signs.
Doesn't slow down.
And I've already heard people, I'm just gonna throw a basketball at them or something. And I sit there and shudder, I say, well, if you wanna keep your house, I wouldn't do that.
So in the absence of clear speeding data on this street, I don't think this is really warranted, quite frankly.
I would agree. I would agree. It's a concern for some
Now we're
people.
gonna put in sidewalks.
And as much as we'd like to do something, we're not gonna put an elevated highway in so that they can walk on the street. So they have to watch as well. We brought up sidewalks. That would be a tremendous idea, but very costly.
Yep.
So, you know, you wanna resolve, it's gonna cost somewhere.
Oh, yeah, you did. There were 6 yeses to install sidewalks, the
Yeah.
rest said no.
I was surprised.
Yeah, I was surprised on that.
Yeah, so was I.
So, okay, let's.
Okay,
we
let's-
can go on to the next
Yeah,
one.
we'll move that down to.
Yeah.
Update on UGI work. Broadly speaking, UGI has started to correct some of the issues that were especially prominent in the holes that they had dug in the right-of-ways or through sidewalks. They have not remediated to our satisfaction. I've been in contact with Eric, and Tom's a little bit familiar with some of these as well. And we're trying to get a clear grasp on where all these issues are and make UGI come back out and do it. They have expressed willingness to do it. Candidly, I don't think that that has been seen in action just yet. So we're pursuing it, but there may come a time where I seek approval from the board to hand it over to Eric and have him work directly with them. I would respectfully ask to try and give us until the end of October, because it's gonna be, no offense, less costly for us to start communicating with them and see if we can get some traction. Because they have a clear obligation. I mean, we have a lot of different pictures, and I sent one to the board where you had an entire rake in the ground. So, you know, it's not, when you first see them, they're small in a relative sense, but all you need to do is step 1 foot off that sidewalk and you have a broken leg.
Right.
And those are permits that we approved, and they are not following to our satisfaction, and that's something that we gotta work on hard with them.
Well, now, UGI is the one who applied for the permits, correct?
Yes.
And then the subcontractor is the one who's doing the work.
Yes.
But ultimately, UGI is responsible.
Yes.
So,
And, I mean, I have it all documented in an email, so we're not gonna have an issue with not having things written down.
right.
Have you guys gone everywhere UGI went?
Well, we can't because they didn't give us a work schedule where they're gonna be. A lot of the times it was just, we came up to them and they're working. So we can't be on site watching them do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah, but I meant,
After the fact, we probably have a patchwork of over 60 to 70% from Brian or Keith going out. Brian is the other guy on the road
Only
who's
'cause-
been point on this.
neighbors have complained too on East Westerner directly to me because I'm there.
Yeah.
And between your driveway and my driveway, I almost rolled my ankle walking through there because I didn't even know they did anything there. I was walking down to see what they did at your place, and I didn't know they even did one in between, and when I stepped right on it, my foot went straight through, so.
Yeah, because they're not compacting their soil.
Exactly,
Right.
it's
They're
bad.
just gonna slow back in and they're gonna break the grass on top.
It's washing right out.
Yeah, exactly.
And in fairness to them, and I don't mean this to stand for a whole lot, but in fairness to them, they had done all of this right before the hurricane. And that definitely contributed to the issue, but I
I watched them do the hole,
Okay.
my other neighbors, when I was waiting on the bus stop for the bus. And they shoveled a square piece of grass off the top, they hydrovac'd all the dirt out of there, and then they jackhammered a little bit around wherever they had to go, and then they kicked that back and hole through the grass on and off they went.
Well, I was
So
gonna
no
say
compaction.
too, if they did compact it properly, we wouldn't have these issues even with the hurricane. But that did contribute to the issue of why they're so fast and
The
completely
vacuuming
washed
of the dirt, they have to replace it with something else, and they didn't do that.
And there's been a lot of problems with UGI on Route 222, which I know you're all familiar, well, maybe Hunter isn't, but they created some major accidents on 222 a couple years ago during that construction when they were moving their gas lines, and that was bad. I mean, we had probably 8 to 10 vehicles that had wheel, lost the tires, wheels.
Blown out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Damage.
serious damage.
Damage.
So there's a whole history here of them not doing very good work.
Yeah, well, and that's where we're trying to figure out our forms of leverage to force them to come back out. And that's why we're using the permits to say, this work is permitted, but you haven't met the satisfaction of the requirements, and you need to. And if they're refusing to do that, that's when I really want to hand it over to Aaron, because I'm a little bit above my head at that point.
And if it gets to a certain point, we have to look at other alternatives.
Do you have to sign off on that though, as the engineer that issues permits?
We issued a permit, the inspection is being done by the township, because
Yeah.
inspection and
Right.
permit fees are just, don't cover engineering fees.
Correct, yeah.
Right, they're minimal, so.
Yeah.
uh,
That's what-
I would say, I don't know, if we don't get satisfaction in next week here, that we rescind the permits that were issued.
Yeah, that's a
So-
very good idea.
That could get their attention.
Maybe we can talk offline about that, because I agree that that could be a really good, point to go with, but my understanding is they have begun work on every one of those permits. So that's where I didn't know, what does that actually mean? Because then they don't have an incentive to fix something that they're not permitted.
Is there such a thing as a stop work order?
Well, rescinding the permit, then they're in violation of the township ordinance. That's a pretty big hammer.
The thing they threw at us is that they had I'm sorry.
No, I know, but I'm just saying it's a big hammer, so I mean, if they're not, there's no excuse not, it's
Right.
Yeah.
pull the dirt on them, don't replace it and
Right.
create holes and things,
VGI is.
safety issues.
Is notorious for restoration, but in the permits that I'm writing up now, I'm adding language that they must notify the township prior to starting and have a pre-construction
Yeah.
meeting. And they, I did in the last ones, added that they have supposed to notify the township before starting any final restoration work.
Yes.
And I'm going after them for, now I'm getting the insurance forms and I'm getting bonding. And so
And that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna.
Even, the way the ordinance is written, I believe that if they're a public utility, they don't have to post a bond. But I'm gonna push that and see if we can't get a bond anyway.
Because of history.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll include an update on the agenda for, if you're comfortable with it, the 24th, just to give you guys a status report of what's happened, and then also on the 10th as well.
That's fine.
Yep. Update on security cameras, they are forthcoming,
Okay.
very soon.
You'll be involved with that process as well.
Yes.
So you'll be aware of that process as well.
Okay. We did chat about it, and I think maybe we just need to finalize that, but we're thinking right now that the actual hardware for recording will be stored at the police station. We'll have access to it, I believe, from Redner's with the cloud access here. But we have very little space, and in terms of security, it's probably better there than it is here.
And if you want to tell Corey, we appreciate his moving us up on that list.
Yes. I'm just making a note to remind myself. Update on road crew work. Keith, I know you had some huge cost savings to the township for some projects. Do you wanna talk about any of those this evening, or?
It was just the West Western Drain project that we did. They're West Western and Route 73. As everybody can see, that it's done, complete. I think when I brought this to the board back in October, I think I submitted a price for the drains and the metal for like $17,000. And I don't know what our final cost was that we got it thing, but I think around like $3,000. So, huge savings for the township. Big thanks to Steve Ambrose, did a great job working it all together. And we actually got it done early, the day early, so, and I think everybody that went by us seemed to be happy. And thankful that we got it done. We did take some flack for the railroad being closed, unfortunately, that wasn't our fault. They decided to close on the same day that we did, so we took some abuse there, but, that wasn't our deal. We got our stuff done, and the railroad kind of did, they did an okay job in there.
Is it gonna ever-
I was gonna say, you know, maybe they should be looking at your
It's still-
project and
Yeah.
give some lessons. But good job.
Yeah.
It definitely.
It's very nice, and I've heard nothing but good things about
I
it,
know,
so,
it is so much more quieter.
yes. If that's all, it looks like a question.
Yes.
Yeah, I know you guys were kinda going through as you had time and doing creek work, and I didn't get a chance to ask you about it. You guys still going through and plucking stuff out of the creek?
The last one we got was behind your friend's house there on Schaefer, that big one.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, we got that one out, and I think that's it for now.
Okay.
You know, until we do another inspection.
That was the one that was laying down just past,
That was that, yeah, and that was the one that, you had to walk back to that smaller tree to look at it.
Yeah.
We do have some other ones scheduled for later this fall as well that we need to complete as well, but those are on the agenda, so yes.
I was just curious, if some people had asked how that was going, I said good as far as I know, so. Did you, were you back behind the, not Spear, the, next to Wales Way there?
Playing those park.
Yes.
Well, I did want to talk to you about that. I remember our conversation, but I don't know where that went. We're talking with the bank and everything.
Oh, yeah, we can continue that.
Yeah,
To be continued.
yeah, exactly.
You have permission to get back there, but I know what you're talking about.
In addition to the creek work, I think that there was a final round submission for those grants. Tom, I think it was a DEP one related to a creek project. I think Chuck had called me about it on
Yes.
Tuesday. I'm just trying to remember.
He submitted.
Okay.
What did he say?
Well, that was already submitted, the permit is also being submitted.
Okay.
But the
Yeah.
grant was submitted?
For the growing greener too?
Yes,
That was back in June.
yeah. Well, was it June or?
June, yeah, it was June 30th,
Yeah.
so never mind.
I thought it was May. Well, I think the board approved it in May. I thought that it was.
And it was submitted in June,
June.
by
Yes,
June
yeah.
30th, so.
What you're talking about is the DEP permit, getting into, everything's now online. And DEP requires the township to be the applicant and be registered online.
Yeah.
And only Hunter can do that. So that was the coordination that we were coordinating with Hunter to get new registration for new people for the township, for DEP permit.
Is this, and this is the permit for the West Walnut Tree Bridge?
Yes.
What kind of timeline are we looking at on that?
Hopefully in spring. I would anticipate being a spring project.
Okay.
It's DEP.
Yeah, so, yeah, it's coming
We're still waiting on the one cleared, the PNDI, the, I forget what it stands for, Pennsylvania National Diversity Index. So basically you have to submit, and they tell you if you have any endangered species, or if you have any historical structures, you know, all those things, okay? We're still waiting on the PNDI clearance letter, which was in there for 3 months, but we're submitting the permit without that, and we'll just follow up with that. So, again, still, depending on who you're working with, people still working from home or are short-staffed, things are just, takes longer now than I've ever experienced.
Have we had any issues with the recent rains? With any kind of, I mean, we haven't anything real major like we had before, but,
Is it flooding or something?
yeah.
So I had asked him to go back out, Keith to go back out when we had that rain, what, last Wednesday or something like that?
Yeah.
Did you go there?
I think so.
Mr. Worley was here at the last meeting.
Oh, okay.
So I had asked him to go out and take a look and see how it was going, and everything's flowing
Like it should.
like it should, and
Now, was
so-
this property in floodplain? Because I asked that question, I
There's
never
a
saw
creek-
an answer to it.
There's a creek that runs right next to his house.
I mean, it sounds like he's probably in the 100-year flood.
Oh, yeah.
So, but that storm wasn't nearly as bad as what we talked about.
No, but
It was a good rainstorm,
we had-
it was a lot of rain, but it was over 5 days.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
thing.
Everything was
I know.
saturated and,
But it wasn't like
It
a
wasn't,
heavy.
it wasn't a 24-hour,
Yeah.
5-day,
Right.
24-hour type job.
Right. And I don't know that we got today what they were anticipating, so.
Yeah, I don't. Wasn't that bad. Not really. All right.
Anything else for road crew? No? Okay, budget workshop meeting format.
So I provided the board what I'll call your budget stocking. That was a crude attempt at humor, but I guess it didn't go over as well as I thought.
It could be criminal activity, could be a foot here.
So, in there, there's a lot of spreadsheets explaining where we're at right now. It is a preliminary draft, it shows a deficit, and I want to use that workshop meeting to get policy decisions back from the board about how to whittle that deficit down. With that being said, I want to try and understand what the board wants in terms of documents, presentation. I know you can't provide all that this evening, so my hope is to give you guys a call after you've had a chance to digest some of what I provided and make sure that I integrate whatever you're looking to find into the budget presentation that I do at the beginning of the meeting. And then I'll start costing out before that presentation or before the workshop meeting what things cost in terms of how we could figure out how to whittle that down. I have volumes of data. I need maybe some direction from the board on what you guys are looking for. I have a lot of suggested cuts so far, and a lot of balanced proposals and different pieces like that. So we have a lot of ideas among the staff. To start with that, what I guess I'm looking for right now is these are really policy decisions to do anything more than I have at this point. And the board is the policy maker, so it's not for me to try and build a budget around all these policy proposals that I have. So want to try and see if you guys have any questions or suggestions this evening. And with that, I'll call you one-on-one this coming week to try and get any specifics that you're looking at from the budget that's in that stock.
Well, I would suggest looking at previous budget meetings that we've had, and the whole format was put together, because that's one thing that Diane did do a good job with, is pulling all this information, putting it together as a packet. I'm sure you know.
Oh, yeah.
So there was a lot of, obviously we're gonna make the policy, but she did have a lot of data and quotes and things like that pulled together in a pretty decent format, so you might wanna look at one of those older budgets. Should be around somewhere. And you said you had all this data that you're working on. Did you provide anything so far?
Yeah, it's in the packet.
Oh, it's in the packet, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I have it.
Yeah, well, the ordinance requires me to submit a budget to you by the 15th of October. Yeah, so that's why it's being provided this evening.
Okay.
Okay. I guess we're gonna move on to Park and Rec.
So in the budget proposal, there are included two budget requests that the Parks and Rec Board submitted to the township. One is for pickleball courts in the amount of $84,000, and the second one is wheelchair accessible walking paths for the Nonalani Heights Park, and that is in the amount of $18,000. And those are included in that budget proposal, that the preliminary budget proposal that you'll see in those packets as well. So I wanted to report on that. Also to say that the Parks and Rec Board is participating in the Blandon Fire Company Trick or Treat Night. I did send an email asking if any of the board members wanted to participate in handing out candy, just meeting different residents and shaking hands and that kind of thing. So that is on the 28th, and we will have a booth there.
And I think a lot of that's gonna depend on timing,
Yeah.
at least for me.
Okay.
I was there I think I was there last year. No, they might have been there last year, the year before it was.
I'm not sure if I'll be there that evening. I gotta talk to Jordan about that, find out from her first. But, yeah, I'd like to be, but, yeah.
It's usually a good event, it's well attended, and, everybody gets together, they have a lot of different things there. I know the Lions Club has their apple cider and everything. That's always a tremendous.
We also have a frolic, but you guys have your budget meeting that night.
But the fire company does a great job, they get everything organized, and, the police officers are usually there as well, so. It's usually a tremendous event, and, well attended, a lot of kids there, so everybody's welcome. They have food there as well. Well, it would be a get-together without food, right? Okay. I always thought that the rest of this was business too, but we'll move to business. Yeah, fence quotes.
Yes. So we got quotes from AKA the Fence Company for $17,351, from Fence Co. Now, we have some different options here. The equivalent one is the galvanized framework and fabric for $14,000. The slide gate is additional cost, but we can do that later, which is what I'm proposing at this point, because we want to electrify it and integrate it with our security system that we will do separately, because that doesn't have to be bid. That work is exempt under bidding thresholds for security. So we don't have an issue with having to bid at the project for doing those security improvements.
So we don't want to include a gate at all?
Well, so the physical gate will be put up there. The sliding gate with
Gate will be
electric
added.
will be attached to.
Not just the motor operator. So you're saying they can put they're gonna put the roller slide gate on, we'll do the motor operator and the key, the FI or RFID card later.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You explained it better than I did. So at this point, my suggestion would be to go with Fensco. They're the lowest quote that we have. We're not required to go with the lowest if you guys wanted to go with ProMax or one of the other ones, but I would suggest going with Fensco for the $14,000. For them, I will say it's about a 6-month lead time, 6-week lead time. So if we make the decision tonight, we can have it done before the end of the year.
What's ProMax's lead time?
ProMax's lead time, I believe, is about 6 weeks, comparable as well. The other one, AKA Fence, I think they have to wait until the next year.
No, I know ProMax's work.
Yeah, ProMax does a good job.
They do a good job.
Yeah.
They might be a little bit pricier, but they stand behind their work. And
Well, the grant money will pay for, if we choose to go with ProMax, and the other thing is that ProMax can do the security work themselves, and we'll do that on a separate quote.
kind of a little weird if you had them not put the fence in, but then do the security work later, it'd be kind of.
Probably.
What's,
I'm sure they would do it.
what other company would, oh, for sure. Right.
There is a
There's gonna
company.
be more available for service work.
That's what I'm saying. They're right up here, and if we have an issue,
So,
I think I saw LiftMaster is the operator that they quoted anyway.
trying to think, E-Lock Safety and Security is the other company that I was looking for quotes from, and he is a detective full-time at Exeter, and he just came back from vacation, so I think he's on for a lot of shifts right now. And he'll be back to give us a quote, definitely for the November meeting. But that's why I didn't have that this evening, because I'm waiting on
What's
some of the
this?
other quotes as well.
Keith, is this LB fence? Is that what it's called, LB fence down here on 222?
22.
The new one?
In Richmond.
LNB,
What's that?
that's
Oh,
LNB, I think.
LB, yeah.
That's like the only fence there.
Do we reach out to them at all, or no?
I didn't.
Robin's not terribly far away, but you got ProMax up here on 61, and then this one right down the road here. You know, like you're saying, if there's any kind of issues or.
I have no objections to ProMax doing it.
I mean,
If you do want ProMax to do it, I would suggest just passing both quotes then, because they do have the security proposal on the
yeah,
next
it's
one
all
with parts as well.
And it's honestly,
Because again, because it's a security thing, it's a specialized professional service, so it doesn't need to be under the threshold.
I just spent 3 years doing fence and substations, so.
Do you want to do it, Josh?
I don't.
I think we
I
need to
designed,
get
I
you the
designed it, I
engineer.
don't.
I don't know.
I know what contractor not to hire in the Baltimore area, I can tell you that. But honestly, I don't think that either one are bad prices at all.
No, we're fortunate.
I never heard of the other two, but I've heard of Promax. And-
Yeah, well, Promax did most of the work for the county.
Yeah,
Both of these are West Penn, Rob Zonia and Rob Zonia, so
Yeah.
apparently being a fencing contractor. Rob Zonia.
I can't picture that, but. Yeah, well,
I think it's a one-stop shop, in my opinion. It's a little bit more, but it's a one-stop shop. They're gonna install everything.
And the grant money will cover the whole project that they have quoted here, so.
Which is very good.
Yeah.
anybody's,
I'll make the motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion. We go with Promax fence system, get them on board for
do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in agreement?
Aye.
Aye.
So along with this, the second option, and I apologize for this coming in late to you, the sea containers. I just had it in front of me. These were at your tables when you came in. We have 3 quotes from TP Trailers, K&K International, and Jake's Containers for storage containers. What these would essentially do is be the buffers on the right and left side of the roll-off area. And there would also be dividers for, what do they call it, the cement things?
Jersey barriers?
Yeah, Jersey barriers. To create the divisions of where the roll-offs will go, and then where the leaves and the brush will be put on the right and the left side. So those we'll purchase along with these sea containers, and because of the size of these, we wanted to get these under the board's approval to move forward with these. They'll also double as additional storage that we will be able to use for things like some of our smaller mowers. When I say smaller, I mean small to us, not small to everybody else. The riding mowers that we have, we can park in there as well. As
Anything up to 8 foot wide, you can stick in there. And what, they're 9'6" tall?
Yes, they
Yep.
will have these,
Yeah, so we'll have the road crew affix them as well to the ground, so that'll be cost that's already been covered with the stone that we were able to purchase. Not yet purchased, but we are approved to purchase.
These are covered also under the grant?
So we'll move money around in the grant to cover the construction of it, which is permissible. It
So no matter-
wasn't.
But again, that same deal, no matter what, these are covered, any of the 3.
Yep.
My thoughts on that are, if we're gonna go that route anyway, because these used containers they're all wind and watertight. However, the K&K, it says cargo worthy, meaning that it's probably not all beat up and dented up, and they're probably in better shape. And probably why that they're costing a little bit more.
You're exactly correct.
So, because people are going to see these and they aren't gonna, you're gonna paint them, I assume?
I would assume so, yes.
So, like
I'm pretty sure you're gonna.
painted in a greenish color, but as long as they're not like backed into and bashed with heavy equipment,
Yeah,
I think you spend the extra money and get the nicer ones that aren't a wreck.
Has anybody seen these to see what they actually look like?
Will they send you pictures?
They will.
So that we buy something that we see before we agree
Yeah.
to it, so that it isn't something
I
that somebody
agree.
dropped off the back
I
end or something.
agree.
Drop off the back end of the boat.
Yeah.
Something that winched out of the Chesapeake.
Rail car, whatever.
So you need a motion on that to go with it?
If you, yeah.
Where's K&K? Are all 3 of them local here? Like, not local, but
well,
like
TP
Philly
is
or?
Limerick.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, I'm familiar with them from
I
doing truck
think,
inspection.
memory serves me right, it was like this Maryland area, not too far away.
Mm-hmm.
Maryland, Baltimore, my memory serves right.
If you look at the delivery prices, that'll give you an idea.
Yeah, right.
Now, Jake's,
Jake's isn't even there at all.
they don't have any delivery price?
Free delivery.
This is a delivery price.
It says delivered, yeah, but doesn't actually break out what the delivery fee
But
would
it's,
be.
no, well, that's where you wanna go look at it before they drop it in your back door.
Yeah.
Sure is.
Was that the telephonic quote, Keith?
No, they're all through email. I don't have it in front of me, so I can't.
Well, here's what I would propose. They send pictures of
Yeah.
of the ones that they've got for sale that we would be purchasing.
Yep.
And we could approve it based on
Yeah.
Keith and the manager reviewing the photos.
Condition
And
of,
conditional to for the purchase and then go from there.
Addition of the crates.
I think we get,
Well,
I think we get,
I like seeing stuff in person when it's used like this. I think you're better off if you know exactly what you're gonna get, you wanna see what you're getting.
So
Sometimes you might just get one picture, might be a little blurry, might not show the back end,
Yeah,
it's
they're
all
not-
danged up
we
or
won't
whatever.
bring them here and take them back. He doesn't go down.
No, you go down and look at it, and then you say that number, it's gotta have a serial number or something on it. That's the one you're getting, then you know what you're getting.
I'm not even sure they have serial numbers,
They should.
They should, yeah.
because usually the trailers that we were inspecting was the frame that had the.
Yeah, but these are
No, these
removable, they have to,
containers-
they have to have a number, your trailer's gonna have a
Oh,
number.
they're gonna have
These
a number
things-
that is assigned to them,
No, but it should have a serial
It's
number on
almost-
it, not
almost
just
a
some
VIN
painted
number.
number on it.
yeah. It's, we'll see, but I guess you're going on a road trip. Two of you. So we give them authorization to make the purchase and,
Subject to visual
you have a
inspection.
Class A, don't you?
Yeah.
So why don't you just rent a flatbed and bring it
I
right back?
truthfully, I'm a little
Right now,
bit-
look down there.
We have plenty of technology opportunities to be able to watch this on video. I think, I candidly am a little bit concerned about sending employees to Maryland to go look
Yeah.
at these visually. We're gonna pay the costs for the truck to go all the way down there, the insurance for all the way being out on the road if something were to happen. If you're gonna send me in my own car, there's gonna be reimbursement cost for the mileage, and that's probably gonna be a $400 trip. I think if we were able to do a FaceTime call or something along those lines with the salesperson, I think we could accomplish the same thing.
Well, I guess I disagree, but I bet one of these is a lot closer than
Fair
Maryland,
enough.
right?
Well, the
Yeah.
TP trailers
This
is
is
in
Limerick.
Limerick.
Okay, well, that's not that far away, you can take one of the township trucks and run down there and take a look.
If we're just going to Limerick, you know, I'll do it at the end of the day, because that's on my drive up to Bucks County.
Okay.
So, that's not an issue, but I think, you know, if we're gonna go with K&K,
That's gonna be the,
Yeah.
I think we start with getting pictures anyway,
yeah.
because that'll,
So ask them to send them to you, and then you take a look and see what they've got. And preliminarily, we'll look at the costs here, and again, the cargo worthy step up from used container, though, that
well, I
just.
don't know. The other thing too is, I don't know is, they know, I guess what this is for, right?
Mhm.
And I guess at the end of the day, if it's not what was discussed on the phone in an email or anything like, you know, as long as you have a written history, and this is, you correct me if I'm wrong, this, but if we don't have it spelled out in the document, whether it's email, whatever, and they go and do a delivery here, and it came out of a freaking scrapyard, we can reject the load and send it back.
Yeah,
You're not paying them till they come here and drop it off and set it on the ground anyway, so.
if we wanna start with TP trailers, I'll go there in person on a drive up there. This one, Jake's Containers, is in New Jersey, and I'll take his word for it that the K&K.
Well, regardless, I think we start with pictures on all three.
Yeah, that's in Baltimore, Maryland. So, we'll start with pictures. Do you want pictures for all three of them, or do you wanna just?
you wanna take a look at them, and you wanna look at the inside as well.
Well, let me ask you this, does the board wanna see the pictures before we make the purchase, or do you want Keith and I to do it?
I think you should send the pictures in.
Okay,
So,
so we'll do all three for pictures. Do they have to authorize the purchase of this size? Do you wanna do an authorization to purchase up to
I was gonna say,
$10,199?
to not exceed.
Yeah.
Because that's out the door, like, tax everything, right? That's,
Can I actually
Why don't we
suggest that
just make it
you?
11,000?
That's what I was about to say, yeah.
Yeah, that way we're not
'Cause these-
juggling.
These may have expired in terms of timing.
Yeah,
No
I mean,
problem.
a sea container's a sea container, they go back and forth across the ocean, so they're traveling through salt water and things like that, so. Okay, so I have a motion to approve $11,000 for the purchase of 2 sea containers, 40 by 8 by 9.6.
I'll make the motion.
Subject to.
Subject to approval once photographs are received and review is
Under the condition,
filed under the condition that they're worthy of our need.
Yep.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
All in agreement?
Aye.
Okay. request for authorization of truck purchase within the parameters.
So this is a big ask. I'm gonna be totally flat with you guys about that. This is asking, in other words, for an open-ended authority for Keith and I to make a purchase of a truck if we find one. The reason for this is because right now with the supply chain issues, what is occurring is we have, I'm gonna be generous and say 5 to 10 business days to make a decision. If that were to happen outside of a meeting, there's no way we'll get to the meeting, have you guys approve the purchase of something and still have inventory to purchase from. With this being the case, what I would respectfully ask is within the parameters that I've identified in that letter, and I'll just pull it up quick for my own reference. So 15% above the $124,719, which was the original amount, so that's $143,427, or 10% below the grant price. The reason I did not 15 below is because you don't want to get a lower level of truck because it needs to haul that week back. So this is extremely limited. It has to be approved within CoStarz, and this would only be approval until the 24th, and I would probably ask for the same opportunity to do that again. The reason that I'm doing this at this point is because that time frame of when we get to June 30th, when this grant money disappears really from our ability to use it, will come more quickly than we think. And on top of that, with the supply chain issues for manufacturers, it does not appear that that is going to resolve itself anytime quickly.
Let me ask you this,
Sure.
and this is gonna include some legal advice. If we don't get to a point where we can find something within those parameters, are we able to make a close with a company to be able to close in on the grant itself without losing that money? Or secondly, are we able to contact the grantors and ask, because of the problems that were resultant from COVID, that we're unable to keep the parameters that they have set?
So, just so I understand, your first part was, could we put like a payment and then reimburse for that payment to the truck? As long as
Yes.
we have that confirmation or contract that says it's coming.
Right, and would they be willing to do the
Yeah.
contract?
So, if that's the case, yes for both. And I've talked to Jane a little bit. Jane Meeks is the recycling coordinator for the county, and I was also recommended by one of the township managers in the county when I saw him on, it was yesterday, to contact DEP themselves, and to kind of make the case, like, look, this is beyond our control. We've had this reserved since the grant was initially acted on, and we're being told now it won't arrive until at least 2024. So this is really beyond our hands. So yes to that.
But we've already started that in motion, right? We've already had an order with Kenworth, right?
Well, that yeah.
So, Freightliner, so wouldn't that process have already been started? You know what I mean? So why wouldn't we be, I
That's
see
what I
what
was
you're saying,
saying.
so why wouldn't we kind of be
Make a payment.
grandfathered in under that? We've already secured with Freightliner, now we've asked to open it up to other manufacturers because of Freightliner's predicament.
I
But
think
that
they're all gonna
process
have the
should
same
already be
predicament,
started.
quite
So-
honestly. I know Ford does.
The issue being for us is that number one, no matter what I would do or have already done, or what Diane would have done, the board still has to make the final approval of the truck purchase. We did not get in the allotment of last year's trucks, so we don't have one that's designated, this is for Maidencreek Township when they manufacture it this year. Now, I know that they'll probably give preference to people they've already turned away, because they know, you've been in line, so to speak, but that's not guaranteed.
So we didn't get in it last year, however, we didn't get in it 2022? Like, I'm not sure, we should be in that
Could you
queue
clarify
by
that?
that point, right? Like, we
We
didn't,
placed an order.
yeah.
Yeah, you placed an order. Unfortunately, what I'm understanding from these truck manufacturers is they're only allotted so many,
Mhm.
and we just weren't.
We didn't make that cut.
We didn't
Yeah,
make that cut.
Through no
But we
fault
should-
of our own.
Because just to give you an example, I mean, Freightliner alone, I think he said actually wanted like 20 trucks. They got
Mhm.
5. So we're not the only ones.
Yeah.
We're one.
But they
Right.
dropped us out of the queue then? Or did they just push us?
I think they push us.
So that's what I
He
mean.
wasn't really certain on that, because I don't think he wanted to promise us a truck next year,
Yeah.
because if we're not in the allotment. And what I think I'm just trying to get at is, you need Peterbilt as an example. What he's trying to say is like, when their numbers come out at the end of October, you know, and they know the price of the new trucks, they're gonna know the allotment. So within like a week, that allotment's gonna be taken up. So if you're not calling on that
Right.
phone, say, we want a truck, and you have to wait 2 weeks, you're not gonna get it.
Right.
They're going that fast.
Well,
So-
same thing Chief's running into with the,
Police cars,
Police cars.
the ambulances
Yeah,
go
it
the same way.
is, so that's kind of what he's kind of saying, is
Yeah.
like, if we're gonna go with the truck, we gotta be ready to go. You can't wait around. There just won't be anything there.
Operations-wise, our needs are not high enough that we need to get a truck right now. The problem is the
We'll
grant
run out of
money.
grant.
If we run into a situation where we run out, we could very well lose it because the state has not guaranteed that they will do any type of special extensions. They made it clear to me that they would do limited extensions. I anticipate what that means is through August of next summer.
Well, I'm kind of at the thought pattern that if we can solidify a contract with Freightliner and close the grant with the idea that we have a commitment, whether that commitment's a year or two, it still gives us the grant.
I'd have to look at that grant language. Is it a completed contract or a, meaning delivery of the vehicle by a certain date, or is it, right, a signing of a contract, entering into the contract with a
Yeah,
delivery date?
and that's my
what you
concern.
need to lead to. I
Yeah.
can look and see what would satisfy that grant.
So why don't you send Eric a copy of that,
Okay.
and you can review that and let us know where we're at with that.
And I agree with your analysis on the second question, which can we go to the grantor and ask for an extension? We absolutely can do that.
Yeah.
Nothing's guaranteed there until we ask.
I just don't want to lose the
No, I
grant
agree.
because it's beneficial to
that
us.
circles us back then to the authorization though, because
Well, do you want to see this, because what I think you guys just suggested was that let's get some more information before we do this. If I'm missing.
We've got some timelines here though too, so we gotta work
Yes.
within those timelines. It's not like we can say, well, next year at this time, we'll review it
by the
again.
time we get to the November's meeting though, we're gonna miss out on
Yeah, right.
getting on the
Yeah,
quota.
We could
Keep
also
up with
have a
kind of what
special
you want.
meeting too, at 24 hours notice.
Yeah.
If you guys are comfortable with that, I'll use it. I really will.
If the worst comes to worst, we have to do it by phone, we can do it by phone.
I, yeah, I don't think that you can do a meeting, a special meeting by phone.
Would we be able to do it by, no, so
The ability to use that was a special legislation that's expired, so.
Okay, well, that's good to know, but I have a pretty flexible schedule. I mean, I work from my farm, I know Josh works from his house. I can be here
Okay.
pretty
I
often.
work from Allentown.
So special meetings can be, so I think one
It's a
person
special
could
meeting.
participate by Zoom or by, I mean, you
Yeah.
can make some
Yeah,
accommodations.
okay.
You can
Not
call
everybody.
quorum.
Yeah.
So you can call.
And they don't have to be at night. I mean, you can have a special meeting 7 in the morning, noon,
Yeah.
4 in the afternoon, so special meetings can happen as long as you advertise 24 hours in advance.
Okay.
And if I were to advertise for that meeting, what I'll also do in the advertisement is say, this is exclusively for the purpose of the truck, so that
Right.
even if we're doing it at an uncommon hour for the public, you know,
Yeah,
they
it's
know that
just
this is
that.
only for this.
I'm just gonna make a phone call to somebody I know who sells Peterbilts.
I am happy to take it.
As a matter
I'm
of fact, he used
sweating
to be
here, I'm
a
not
resident
kidding.
of the township.
Oh, Devin?
Devin, yes.
Yeah, that's who I've been talking to.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay, well then I don't need to make that
I
clear.
used to live in Shadow Ridge, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he lived up the Tripoli.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's up
Yeah,
there.
and that's basically told me, he said, look, when this number's comes out, our allotment comes out, you need to make a decision quick, because they'll be
Okay.
gone.
Have you heard anything as far as quotas per manufacturer? Like Kenworth has so many,
No, they won't know.
and they won't let you in on that.
It all has to do with computer chips and parts.
They said there's so many for Pennsylvania, and it's, so there won't be any numbers.
And some of it's negotiating with the large purchasers. I was at a meeting at Albright where Enterprise was there talking about their fleet rental and also their fleet leasing programs. What they said is, we get first dibs because we're the largest purchaser in America.
Right.
And that, I think, kind of brought it home to say, we're not only competing with all these other townships, we're competing with,
Corporations.
Corporation,
Yes.
we're dead bottom, dead last. International's another one too, I didn't have to check with them.
Well,
we have a list, I think, of 6 manufacturers that we've been reviewing, and we have calls out to all the dealers, they know we're looking for stuff. I think, you know, the Peterbilt or the Freightliner is the preference, I think, at this point. You know, Freightliner is what's in the grant, so we won't get more money than what we have for the Freightliner spec'd out. But the Freightliner cost is going to increase no matter what.
oh yeah,
And we can, I will say this, we can apply in the 902 grant for this next year, 2023. I think that's around 62. Sorry, it's either 62 or 63 for the costs that we would have gotten with 60% coverage on the previous year. So if we buy a truck that's more expensive than this year, we can go back and say, look at this money, it was above and beyond the 60% that you allocated, and we'll probably get awarded for that as well.
Well, we need to move quickly, because we're,
Well, if you can find one, you don't know that you
Yeah.
can find one.
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's the big, that's the big
Yes,
if.
well, and we've even talked about what would it look like if we got something that was used. And when I say used, I'm not talking about a 2010 with 50,000 miles on it. I'm talking about like new to them, new to us, pretty much. Because we wouldn't want to.
demonstrator or something like that.
Yeah, something along those lines. So that is definitely, it's an option, but nowhere. They're not anywhere. They're not anywhere. I know that, like, the chief has been struggling. Muhlenberg went all the way out to Pittsburgh to pick up the Interceptor, Ford Interceptors, because they had an allotment out there, and I think they've been checking in Ohio, New York, New Jersey, Maryland, all around to try and see anything that they can find.
What radius did you look at?
Well, we were doing Google, we were doing
Just
Pennsylvania,
everywhere.
we were doing
It's just
Municipal, we were doing all the dealerships to see what they've heard. And what the manager at Muhlenberg Township, Jim Bobek, said to me is, you could be hunting for a while, and you just gotta get lucky, honestly.
Well, you're a natural born hunter.
It's true, it is true. It has come with the territory.
Oh, you don't like my
So
job?
this would come down to,
Well,
instead of giving the authorization, come down to a special meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you just call a special meeting if you happen to find
Yeah.
one.
yes. Well, when they come out with the allotments, we might be on the phone the first day they open, and we might ask for a special meeting the next day. So,
That's fine.
so,
Okay.
so be ready.
Along with our condition as well, that's okay.
Exactly. Yep.
All right.
Okay. Approval of letter requesting left-hand turning lights for 22 and 73 intersection.
So when PennDOT did the initial traffic study, one of the things that was requested is that they look at doing left-hand turning arrows on the lights here at the intersection of 73 and Richmond 22. What they decided is that they wanted to go through the study and see if there was something that was merited. They're open to it. They need to revise their traffic signal permit.
My understanding is that they have everything set up for it, so that all they would have to do is do the changeover.
Install the new, sorry.
Computer board.
Yeah. That is what they have, in not so many words, portrayed to me. So they did review the letter that I had drafted to say, is this sufficient for what you need if the board wanted to do this? He said yes. I think that this really is in the best interest of the community. I will say, driving it myself and seeing other people drive it, it is a dangerous turn to make sometimes.
So you're turning from 73, and they saw the need for 73 from a 3-lane road to a 4-lane road, but they don't see crossing 3 lanes of traffic as a need is confusing to
Yeah,
me.
I'm not sure why they just do it.
They should have done it, and they didn't
Yeah,
want to,
they
for
didn't
whatever
want to.
reason.
They said it wasn't warranted. So, and I drive it every day too, and it's a mad dash if you're the first car. If you're the second car, and the first car has no initiative and wants to sit there for all the traffic, and then you sit for a couple light cycles. So, yeah, we're definitely in need of it.
Okay.
So,
I'll move that we approve the letter requesting left-hand turning lights at 222 and 73 being sent to PennDOT.
second?
I'll second that with my words.
Okay, all in agreement?
Aye. So the only thing perhaps that you may want to do is recess an executive session for the one issue with the potential of returning related to the code violations one. And then the board can adjourn the meeting coming back if you so choose. You also don't have to take action this evening on that.
Okay, there's one thing I want to bring up. We had an ambulance meeting last night, and I just want to put this out there. You know, ambulances all across our Commonwealth are running into a shortage of people, as are fire departments as well. So, like everybody else, Northern Berks Regional is looking for people, and if anybody's interested, I would urge you to get hold of Steve Lavella. Danny's usually here from the fire company, so if anybody's interested in fire, there's training provided for you. It's provided by the fire company. Northern Berks is willing to discuss the acquisition of training for you for EMS as EMT, possibly even paramedic. So this is an urgent need that after going through COVID, there are a lot of people that are getting burned out on the EMS. They've gotten sick numerous times. You can wear all the protective gear you want. Doesn't mean it's going to stop the virus from penetrating that gear or your skin. So if anybody, or you know anybody that's interested, you know, please, I urge you to get hold of them. I've done it myself. It's very rewarding in both fire and EMS. So have at it. You know, if you know anybody, please ask them to contact. EMS gets paid. The fire service is volunteer at this point, and we'd like to keep it that way if we can.
I might want to add to that, Dave.
Yes.
Also, I'm also on the board with Northern Berks EMS, is that even if you are not comfortable going into an actual EMS, they still need volunteers to help out in the office and in the garage area to resupply and restock. So that's not something that we can overlook.
Right, they have fundraising events
Yeah.
for different charities and things like that, so. So anyway, that's what I wanted to add, and guess we're gonna need a executive session, so it is now 8:57. We'll adjourn to executive session.